Twinings Try edition? Check. Some more media roundup with all the usual suspects? Check again. This week, Hosni promises more barracking for protesters, but is then forced to step down. It's deja vu as revolutionary winds sweep across North Africa, and watch out, this dictator has 40 Amazonian women. New evidence emerges in the Aafia Siddiqui case that the USA broke international law, surprise surprise. And it's the final straw, as David Cameron's speech echoes the same racial undertones as his friend Jack, as the EDL increasingly appears on news cameras.
How dated.
The usual suspects.
So we kick off with The Guardian looking towards Egypt's new dawn as Mubarak surrenders power to the army, and rumours suggest that he's flown out of Cairo seeking medical assistance in Sharm el-Sheikh. But also interesting enough as well that the military pledges not to intervene in the way of legitimate governance. We'll see what that means. The Tory graph. Egyptians celebrate as Mubarak departs, as cries of the dictator has fallen can be heard in Tahrir Square. The Independent. A tyrant's exit and a nation's joy as several thousand Egyptian protesters celebrate in scenes of jubilation, enjoying their first few days of freedom. But from one tyrant to another. The bloody colonel, The Times. Gaddafi blames bomb protesters as several hundred die as the regime crumbles like a stale cookie, and the scenes of pilots and diplomats defecting in mass numbers. But looking inside the paper very briefly, very serious claims here that the regime is actually drafting in snipers and mercenaries, which are roaming gunmen bringing death to the streets of Tripoli, as the regime has been seen to be uprooted in the east, such as Princess Benghazi. But very interestingly that these people have been called cowards, as the mercenaries are actually non-Libyan nationals. Most have been drafted in from places like Côte d'Ivoire, Niger and Chad and other states in Africa. Again, The Times, the truth revealed. The brutal truth, according to The Times. Again, as serious evidence obtained to The Times suggests that there's been proof to say that these mercenaries have been targeting the injured while in the hospital, but not only the injured, those who are looking after them, doctors, health professionals, and so on and so forth. Very serious allegations indeed. The FT, Gaddafi vows to battle on to the death as he calls for the nation to be cleansed, house by house, and he threatens to let Libya burn. The Independent has a very serious series of names for the dictator, calling him cruel, vainglorious, steeped in blood. And the Independent asks, after 4 decades of oppression, is he actually on his way out? The Independent again, on the contrary of his good old rant on TV, I'm not going to leave, claims Gaddafi. The Tory graph, with pictures here of his 75-minute speech here, Gaddafi warns his people of swift, violent retribution. And finally, Gaddafi bombs his own capital for the last battle for his own survival.
The usual suspects.
Welcome to part 2 of The Usual Suspects, and we begin with an update in the Aafia Siddiqui case. For those of you who are unaware of the details of the case, Aafia Siddiqui was abducted in 2003 by the United States and the ISI of Pakistan. All along she endured severe mental and physical torture while under custody, and both the US and Pakistan deny all knowledge of her whereabouts. However, suddenly she reappears in Afghanistan in 2008 with a list of targets and explosives on her persons. While under US custody, she apparently picks up a machine gun that was left on the floor and fires point-blank range at US soldiers and misses. However, they return fire and she's injured. Highly unlikely. According to one of the soldiers present at the time, she'd snatched the machine gun out of his hands and shot at him, but missed. A woman's been abducted, tortured, raped, snatches a machine gun out of the hands of a trained US soldier? Come on. After all the above, she's given 86 years for the attempted murder of the US soldiers. 86 years. Now, new tapes emerge that the Pakistani authorities and the United States were actually aware of her whereabouts during the years 2003 until 2008. And in this final piece of The Usual Suspects, we look at the EDL's new speechwriter, in the form of the posh toff, David Cameron. Cameron, My War on Multiculturalism, again referring to this government's new piece of policy on their way they'll tackle ethnic communities in the UK. My War on Multiculturalism, accusing segregated communities of behaving in ways that run counter to our values. Of course, David, the only ethnic you've seen is somewhere in Whitney in Oxfordshire, cleaning aisle 6 in a waitress branch. Telegraph. Muslims must embrace core British values, says Cameron, again proving that this speech was targeted at the Muslim community. The Times. Multiculturalism has failed us. It's time for a muscular liberalism, says Cameron. And again, as you can see there, nicely bearded fellow there, burning the Union flag. Burn, baby, burn. And as you can see here, again, it's linking the fact that it was an ill-timed and ill-conceived speech. And many Muslims and non-Muslim voices actually saying, why did he make the speech on the same day that 4,000 skinheads protested on the streets of Luton? Again, proving that Cameron is in bed with EDL. And finally, The Guardian. Cameron tells Muslim Britain, stop tolerating extremists. Shh. The Usual Suspects. And that's all we got time for in this edition of The Usual Suspects with myself, Ibrahim Ali, producer Townsend, our lemon cake here, and Twiny's new chai edition, which can be enjoyed in any particular part of the day, especially in the afternoon, with a cake or a small snack. We're all off to integrate and sample that halal white meat that Jack Straw wants all for himself. How stingy.